It's great to be here, Heart Ninja. And also, I'm a boss babe. I've been in business for myself since forever.
Mm.
I mean, I've had a few jobs in my life, but not that many. Mostly, and even when I had jobs, I was the boss. Um, yeah, I understand what it is to be multidimensional, multitasking, while at the same time being in the feminine flow.
Beautiful. It's such an interesting balance and challenge, right? Is
Yeah.
how do we really get out there and want to contribute and help people, but not at the expense of ourselves, right? Not at the expense of really feeling this internal alignment and connection and radiance. And we were talking a little bit before we jumped on this live, and I was like, Lori, I have something that I feel ashamed to tell you. And she's just like, have at it, you know? And I said, I'm turning 39 tomorrow. My birthday's tomorrow.
Oh.
And thank you. And really, it is this last go round that I finally really dropped into. Wow, I am no longer a kid. Like I'm really a young woman, a middle-aged woman, almost approaching 40. And it really
Right.
brought up my feelings of aging and impermanence, and really underneath the fear that as I age, I'm going to be less desirable, and that I'm going to lose my mojo and my juju,
Mhm.
And I just wanted to bring that up because I think you have so much to say about that. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, they use everything against us to market other things. I just heard another ding dong. Did somebody else join us? So do we have a spy? Anyway, you know, everything is used against us to market other things to us. So, at my age, they're marketing retirement homes and pension plans. And if we didn't set up a 401k, and do I want to buy a funeral plot, all these things. And, I think that's all, like, they can market that to other people. I rip those up and throw them into the trash. So for about 12, 13 years, it's going to be 12, I guess, 12 or 13. I was privileged to meet some people who told me that I could live much longer than I thought was possible. And before that, like, let's say when I was in my 50s, first of all, let's put everything in perspective. I found Tantra when I was 50, like 46.
Wow.
So 10 years later than you right now. And look at you. I mean, you found sacred sexuality, I don't know, I
Pretty
guess
early.
20s, pretty early.
Yeah.
There was no such thing. There was nothing. So when I was 46, I quit working for Landmark Education. That was one of the few jobs I had. And I was the top enrollment manager in the world. So I influenced a lot of people. Um, I left there, my body was broken. And I found Tantra. And the first day of Tantra, like at Landmark, I put my sexuality into my desk drawer, into my right hand desk drawer. And I was like this little drill sergeant walking around, not allowing my sexual energy to leak onto people. I didn't even know what it was then. But how could I be this good at enrollment and not have my sexual energy? I had it, but it was like under wraps. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my
And
God, this is so good.
yeah, one time a forum leader said to me, you got sexual energy all over the 500 of us in this audience. And I went, I did not. Like I was in denial about it. And now, if I knew then what I know now, I would say, you're absolutely right. That was my sexual energy. Why do you think So I know I'm covering a lot of things in one little story, but the week I left Landmark, my body was broken. I had irritable bowel syndrome. I had 2 torn meniscuses in my knees from lack of exercise. The pressure to be number one was affecting my lower GI tract. And so a friend of mine called me and said, there's this Tantra class. You should take it. It's next month in Silver Spring, Maryland. I lived in DC. And I went, okay. I just signed up for it. And I thought, I hope I don't have to get naked. I hope I don't know anyone there. I hope. Of course, I went there. I knew people. And I don't know that we didn't get naked on the first day. But on the first day, I remembered who I was as a female bodied human. Like all of a sudden, oh, I, I could breathe, and I was breathe. We were doing like, some dynamic breath, sound, and movement, and I was like, oh, this is who I am. Oh, and I care about everything. And I just like burst open. The floodgates burst open. Now, Emily, if I say to you, yes, of course, I was using my sexual energy to enroll people in the Landmark Forum. That's my power. What were they thinking? And I would admit to it, and I would admit to it in front of 500 people now, but I didn't then. It was too, like, I was humiliated.
What was it? Almost because I'm just curious, because there was this idea that sexual expression was something reserved for the bedroom or reserved for intimates, or like what was the story that then had you kind of deny that? Or did you just feel abandoned from it?
I just felt like you are not, you calling me out in front. It's like call out culture before call out culture. You are not calling me out in front of 500 people and saying that I just put my sexual energy. I mean, like, it was just like, I wasn't being like that. It's just who I am.
Yes.
It's like, it's, I have always been in touch with I've always been in touch with there's something more to sex than this,
Right.
you know, but I never knew, my mother used to go, what are you doing in the bathroom? I was discovering myself.
Yeah.
And I've always been very precocious. I've always been very sexual. I would be what we now call, it's funny, when the Insta leads all get together, sometimes we talk about hypersexual young women who come to the training programs and want to have sex with everybody, especially those in power.
Mm-hmm.
And we speak about that, and then I think to myself, was I that? Like I think.
Yeah, like maybe
I was.
in your natural essence, were you this like vivacious thing that wanted to like maybe fuck and be fucked, right?
Exactly. And so I was that. I did do that. I don't know that I sought after the power people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care for them that much. But I certainly sought for my own pleasure and
Yeah.
my own experience. And so here I was in this class, and I woke up because at Landmark, I just felt like I had to be.
Buckled up, kind of really
Yeah,
held it together.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I was in corporate America for the short time that I worked in the regular part of corporate America, software industry, I used to wear like collars, up to here with little bow ties. And I would say to my partner at the time, I dress like this because I don't want them to know how crazy I am. But crazy for me was code for how really freaky and sexual I am, and whatever. I have to play that part in the corporate, wearing a suit. And I always wore skirts under my knees, and I always wore totally closed shoes, no slingbacks, no open toes. Like
Wow.
I had a code to
And
just,
I'm curious, like what was it that had you want to cover it up? Were you shamed? Was it just cultural
I
programming that
guess,
it's not okay? What was the story that had you kind of
not
close it up?
okay, not okay, didn't want to use sexuality to get my promotions, didn't
Yeah.
want, did not want to be seen as not equal
Yeah.
to the men, didn't want to be seen as emotional or as seductive or whatever. I did not want to be seen like that. I wanted to be like taken really seriously. Like what I have to say is serious. And I was taken really seriously.
Yeah. It's
And I
interesting
got,
before I also had kind of my sexual revolution and coming into like, my full expression, there was a way that like I need to be seen somewhat as a respected elder in, how I use my energy so that I can be respected and appreciated. And if I did show my sexuality, then people will think I'm just trying to get my way. They just trying to think I'm getting off. They won't actually see me for my value or for the things I have to offer. So it's really kind of amazing hearing this, the ways that I kind of shut down.
yeah,
And I do get a lot of interesting as I come out more in my full expression. There are those people that have those projections, right? But also being able to like be okay, right? That people have those projections and trust, right? Trust our own inner guidance system and trust that the
Right.
right people will come.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the corporate executives from my software company called me like, I don't know. I lived here already in Arizona, so it's got to be within the past 11 years. He called me and he said, this sounds crazy, but I want you to be my friend on Facebook. And I said, you're an upstanding member of your Southern Baptist Church in Texas. You don't, you stand for all these things. You drilled that into my head when we were in corporate together. And, you used to secretly ask me for advice about all kinds of things because I had intuition about things that you didn't. And you were my mentor. I said, are you sure? I said, I teach about sex now. Are you sure you want to be publicly my friend on Facebook? Like you could catch some flack for that. I'm just warning you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he said, no, I do. I do. And I said, okay. So I don't know if we still are, but I thought it was really, I just warned him because he had a different, persona
Yeah.
that didn't include anyone like me.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, that's really great discernment for me because I connected with someone on Facebook for something outside of my work, for like a travel like place somewhere, and
Yeah.
through a recommendation, and they got on and we were talking, and then after the talk, she looked at my Facebook and she said, I don't want you in my life. I don't want you. Yeah, she went into like, I can't, like, there's no way that I want to relate to someone like you, after I see what you're doing. And it really had me go into what the discernment of actually what you just did. So thank you, which is, so, I just want to let you know I am a public figure and I do teach about sex and intimacy. And, if you want to be on Facebook or you want to be my friend, like that's going to be a part of what you're stepping into. Is that something that you consent to, essentially?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's
Listen,
the
I feel
thank
the
you
same
for,
way about my neighbors.
yeah,
I live on a cul-de-sac and people come to my home all the time for, gatherings. Sometimes I have clients, whatever. And I say to them, when you park on the street outside the cul-de-sac, when you're walking in, if my neighbors stop you and ask you what you're doing, say you're going to a network marketing meeting.
mm.
You're joining an MLM, because
Yeah,
I don't really want any whistleblowers. There are weird people in this world, or
there
people,
are.
maybe they're not weird. Maybe they just like, they haven't discovered yet how important sexuality is as their vital life force. And maybe they're going to discover it and maybe they're not, but I'm not going to be run out of my beautiful cul-de-sac because I do this and my neighbors don't know.
I love that. I love that. And
Right.
again, I think one of the amazing things about really doing sexuality work is becoming really strong in our boundaries, right? Really being like, hey, this is sacred space. This is the energy that I run. This is who I am. We might be doing scenes. We might be doing screaming. We might be, and what do I need to create safety, like a container to be able to,
Exactly.
to honor what's about to happen here, because there is the need for containment and boundaries, especially around working around sexuality.
Exactly. My neighbors in Washington knew. So I had no problems there. All the neighbors surrounding me knew about my work. But here, I don't know. When I moved into Arizona, I didn't know. And some new people just moved next door and I like them. They're kind of cool. And I said to my partner, Michael, we might invite them over for a drink and tell them what we do.
Yeah.
They would be the first people on the block.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Really having that
So,
kind of like who is showing that they have a level of maturity to be able to step into this
exactly.
conversation, and really the discernment of like who hasn't done any work around their sexuality, who's not interested, or who's really buckled up and closed down. And
Exactly.
so before we jump into the topic, I just wanted to
Yeah.
say what do you have to say to women that are, 40s up, 50s up, 60s up, that are feeling somewhat, disconnected from their turn on or disconnected from their confidence or radiance or sexuality? Like, is it too late for them? Is it like what?
Never. Never. I did menopause. I started menopause when I was 42 and it lasted till I was 52. And I didn't take hormonal replacement until I was probably 60. And then I regained everything. I didn't lose everything because I didn't want to lose everything, but things definitely changed in my body. And then I started doing bioidentical hormones, and that gave me a resurgence in interest of desire.
Bioidentical hormones.
Hormones. Yeah, so those are hormones that are not made in before, like when I was first going through menopause, the only thing that was available that I knew of, maybe it was maybe bioidenticals were available, but they weren't well known. So the only thing they could give you was an animal, a something made from animals, actually made from pregnant horses.
Wow.
And I didn't want to. I just heard bad things about it. I didn't want to take it. One time I was having like hot flashes and heart palpitations, and I went to my doctor and I said, "Okay, I'll take it." So he gave me, a medicine bottle filled with it, and I took one and then I threw them out. I said, "No, I don't want."
Yeah.
So then I waited, and then I when I was I don't know, probably, let's see. Yeah, when I was 59, 60, I was in New York City, and I was living in New York then, and I met a group of people that said we didn't have to age the way we've been programmed. And they said I didn't have to die. They said, "Why do I have to die?" I said, "Because everyone else did." And they said, "Well, that's not a good enough reason to die." "What, would you choose to die?" And I said, "No, I love life." And they said, "Well, good, you could extend your life." So I became like a fanatical life extension person.
Mm-hmm.
It's called radical life extension or super longevity or being an immortalist.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started, there was no science behind it, but now there's loads of science behind it. So I've used my body as an experiment. So about when I was around 59, 60, I started taking bioidentical hormones. Those are hormones that are made from plants, but how can I explain it? They permeate the membranes of human animals almost the same way that animal proteins would permeate our cells. And so they're made of plants, so they're not as
Yeah.
dangerous, they're not as cancer producing.
Hard on the
Although
body.
people who have had cancer in their families or have had some cancers they have to take more often blood tests to make sure that there's no markers in their blood
Got
for
it.
taking hormones.
And how
So
long has
there is,
you've been taking that?
I take a blood test 3 times a year.
Right.
Some people only do it once a year. I do it 3 times a year because I want to be on top of all these markers.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how long have you
Yeah,
been taking the hormones, and what have you noticed has
13,
changed?
13 years. Well, I noticed that I'm also taking, I had osteopenia, which was the beginnings of osteoporosis. And so altogether, I've been taking bioidenticals for 13 years. I've been taking calcium increasing supplements, bone building supplements for 6.
Hmm.
And I've grown, my spine has grown, the calcium in my spine has grown by 7%.
Wow. So you're actually
Yeah.
really seeing like the results medically
Yes.
and obviously
And
feeling
then
it. You're
yes, I mean,
feeling,
I can work out at the gym. I just rejoined my gym after the whole COVID year. I
wow,
built a gym in my backyard, but now I'm going back to the gym. So I have both. I can work out in my backyard or work out at the gym.
both the best
I
worlds,
can,
right?
yeah, I can see the difference in my bones. I can see the difference in my hair. I can see the difference in the tissues of my yoni. Like I
Hmm.
never didn't get moist, but I felt more brittle before I was taking the bioidentical hormones. Now I don't feel brittle. Like I don't feel like something's going to tear. If I'm having
Yeah.
sex, like with a penis,
Yes.
I don't feel like something's going to tear.
Wow,
Um,
honey, amazing. So
and my
really,
skin feels more supple. It doesn't prevent wrinkles. I mean,
yeah, of
we get them,
course. But it
but
sounds like really learning to be able to listen to the body, right? Listen to the body and feed it what it needs so that it can continue to flourish.
Yes.
right?
So,
And so
yes.
sometimes it's internal, right? Sometimes it's taking things externally to do that, but also like how we touch ourselves, right? How we breathe, how what we surround ourselves by,
Yeah.
what we think, you know?
Well, that's the thing. I had to interrupt the thinking that said, uh-oh, I'm going downhill. I'm not going to be desirable anymore. I'm not going to be attractive to people anymore. I'm not going to be, I should dress my age or whatever that means.
Right.
Like I started, I had to interrupt all of that. I had to interrupt that any part of me was getting ugly.
Yep.
Um,
I love it.
and then I had to stop saying certain things, like I stopped saying, this cheesecake is to die for. I'm not dying
Mm.
for any cheesecake. I'm, I don't love anyone to pieces. I don't love them to death. When I go on my podcast, I don't break a leg. I don't do any of those stupid things. I don't even know where those
Right.
things came from, but I don't say any of that.
So
And I,
consciousness in what you say to yourself, real
yeah.
consciousness. I love
And
that.
then here's another one. Lately, I mean, I guess for the past 3 or 4 years, people have been saying things to me like at festivals or whatever. Oh, you remind me, I would love for you to be my Tantra grandma. And I go, I'm not your grandma. I'm not anybody's grandma. I'm not your grandma. And when you say that to me, what you're doing is putting me in a box called old. And I'm not in that box. If you feel that you need to put me in that box, you look over there.
Love
I'm not
that.
I'm not any different from you over here. So don't start doing that to me. That's not a compliment.
Right. Wow, that's powerful. So boundaries. Again,
Hmm.
when we come into our power, we learn about boundaries. They're like, hey, that's a fantasy that you want, but
Yeah.
I am a no to stepping into that fantasy. Now, if you
That's
want,
right.
now possibly if you want to pay me a certain amount of money, we can play out that scene consensually, right?
That's right. I see you. Well, it's really funny. I met somebody. That's great. I met someone in Berlin a few years ago, and he was a really young man. Um, I say really young, meaning he was 21 at the time, and he just had a thing for me. And I said to him, it would be one thing if I was a MILF, mothers you love to fuck. I
Fuck
said,
yeah.
but I'm more like a GILF, grandmothers you love to fuck. And he said to me, oh, shut up. He said, I love you who you are. I met you. I said, I wish I met you when I was 21. And he said, I met you now, and I went, thank you. I honor that. I love you. I love him. And so I realized my own limiting beliefs then, and I had to stop that. Our bodies need serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin.
Whew.
Our brains need those things.
Yep.
So we have to touch ourselves. And we
Yes.
also have to let other people touch us.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, those are nutrients to be able to feel connected in ourself and to also feel our vitality and our joy. And if we're not connected to vitality and joy, then why the fuck are we here? Like,
BCE.
I mean, this is a lot of beauty right here, but how do we attune to that beauty inside of ourselves so that we can actually be in resonance? And I just want to
You got
say,
to use this. What you use, you don't lose.
yeah, I love it. I love it. What you use, you don't lose. I hope everybody takes that in. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because for me, it's about energetics. It's not really about what the person looks like, especially in my sexuality that I've done my work. Like it's more about like this person, there's some kind of magnetism and or something they have that I'm longing to connect with because it's part of my growth and evolution of igniting something in myself. And it's not about the way that it looks on the outside. It's the energy, it's the energetics, like for
Yeah.
instance, the way that you talk and your boundaries and your like the way that your power, I'm just like, I would submit to you like in a fucking heartbeat. Like if we were to be together, I would actually trust to submit to you because I don't trust a lot of women that to be able to do that, to be able to
Yeah.
really feel that I'm going to be held, I'm going to be taken care of, and this woman is going to know how to guide me and be there through my full experience. And that's a high bar for me to able to say that I would be willing to
Thank
submit
you.
to you.
I feel very honored.
I,
Thank you. I'm super dominating in my life, but in the bedroom with my partner, Michael, I'm, you know, he could be the dom all the time. Well,
yeah,
actually, it's more like 7 to 1.
yeah,
Like he'll be the dom 7 times. And then once I'll say, okay, I want you to submit to me. And
yeah.
then he goes, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Me
But
too. I notice in my sexual life too, it's really important
yeah,
for me to feel taken. And because I do wield my energy as a boss all the time. So I'm like,
yeah,
I want someone to grab me, compress me, choke me, shake me, like, turn me around, tell me
yeah,
what to do. Which is a
yeah,
great
that's true.
segue into our topic, right? And our
Yeah,
topic today,
fantasy.
setting up our fantasies for maximum fulfillment and pleasure. So, what do you have to say about that?
Well, to me, my whole life is my fantasy. I can't say to you that I looked forward from the time I was like in college and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't have any idea that I would be this. I didn't
Right?
know that I would be the general of the sexual revolution. Do you know what I mean? Like I, I just was kind of going along. I was different and I was always powerful, but I just didn't know what direction to take. And when I found Tantra, all of a sudden everything opened up and I just went, this is it. This is what I want. This is what I've been looking for. This is what I've known. This is intuitively everything. And so now I live my fantasies. Like
Mm,
I live in the desert. I live in a mini spa paradise,
mm.
which sometimes I look around my backyard and I'm sitting there and I go, I wish my mother was alive so I could just go, Ma, look what I did. I didn't even have to get married to do this. I didn't have to use somebody else's money. Like I made my own.
I love it. Yeah, that's powerful, right?
Yeah.
That's really
And then
powerful.
and then and then in terms of fantasies, like sexual fantasies or life fantasies, like I could go anywhere. Well, now with COVID, who knows, but I mean before COVID, I could go anywhere I want by myself or accompanied. I could travel the world. I could speak different languages. I could choose to be with someone or not be with someone based on what my desire is, and I could just do it. Like I have a freedom. And I
Freedom.
mean, I didn't grow up that way. My mother told me, never speak your truth, manipulate, hint at things, complain about things. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that coming into sexual power meant speaking my truth.
Hmm.
I only discovered that. And even my tantra teacher didn't, I don't think she was super empowered. So I don't think that she really spoke about all those things, but I discovered them. And then I discovered that I could have anything I want. And
Wow.
then I had to say, well, do I want all that?
Right, right, right. Like in a way, like where do I want to place my energy, right? Where do I? Because there is the sense that we only have so much time and energy, right? Like I can do anything, I can do everything, and I'm in a body.
Yeah,
Uh,
not so much. I don't want to. The thing that rang the truest, I'll just share this, is that I was in Australia doing this to level 2. Bruce Lyon was the lead of it, and
love Bruce.
Araminta Barber and I were the co-facilitators of it. And we were doing an exercise where a bunch of people were out in the field and they were all naked, and there were 4 gorgeous guys who were assisting. And all of them are good friends of mine. All of them are men that I love and adore and who love and adore me. And I leaned over at Bruce and I said, those 4, that would be, that would be something. And Bruce said, do it, tell them. So we were in the next staff meeting and he said, you 4, she wants you, all 4 at the same time.
Oh
And
my God,
so,
yum, yum.
so my face turned this color,
Right,
red. And they looked at me, all 4 of them, and they said, is that true? And I went, yeah. And they said, yes, yes,
right.
we'll be with you. When can we be together? Well, that was the next challenge. Like in the ISTA training, there's no off time. Even in the evenings, like you're doing something. So it was either be with all four of them in the temple space. I didn't know if I had the nerve to do that,
Right.
or carry them off to my room, which would end up being something like 45 minutes, which didn't seem like it would do my fantasy justice.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't have much time.
It would take me 45 minutes to lay out what I wanted.
Right, exactly. You're like, this would be pointless. Why do
so
it?
I so I canceled it. So I said the next morning we were all together in a staff meeting and I went, I'm canceling my fantasy. And they went, but Laurie. And I went, no, really, I love you all. I love you more than I could even say in words how much I adore you. I love you for saying yes to me. That actually made it, that was half the fantasy.
Right.
I said,
That it
if
could
we don't have,
happen.
right, if we don't have enough time to do it justice, I don't want to, I don't even want to get started.
Fuck, I love you and your boundaries. God, it's so freaking huge. I want every woman to really hear when you're in your power, like your discernment of really like, okay, I want this. However, what would actually create the circumstance to be able to have it happen? And is that possible? And if it's not, then actually you might be more disappointed with the fantasy, right?
Exactly. I have been before. I have to
Yeah.
say I have been before with a few, not always, but a few. So I let it go. Bruce called me a chicken. It was funny.
Oh, wow, really?
He ribbed me the whole week. He was like, "Oh my God, you're so chicken. You didn't do your fantasy." And I was just like, "Well, let us off for a few hours, and then I'll come back to you and let you know." But I, I, I was not sorry, and I'm
Wow.
still in love with these four, and they're still in love with me. I mean, it's not like anything went out of it.
Yeah.
We just didn't do it. Although
Right.
we've had intimate moments, and yeah,
Wow.
sometimes it just isn't, it's not going to be what I wanted. And if it's not going to be exactly what I want, I wanted to see what would happen if I was like overcome with love by four like stunning men and I couldn't fight them off. Like they would just like ravish me. And I didn't feel like, I felt like the setup would take 20 minutes and then that would leave 25 left, and 25 was not enough for what I wanted, not my appetite.
Yeah.
So I just went, no.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely, and also like it was something really important to the viewers that I really want to imbue and share is that so many of your fantasies, like the turn on and the getting off is just being able to say that you could have them.
Yes.
Being able to say,
Yes.
being able to like actually say, hey, I do have a fantasy about going outside, getting on that log, and then having you come over, tie me to it, and rip my clothes off, and say these things to me, and then fuck me.
Right.
And so that's the first step is that you could just say that to someone, right? Feel and let go of shame or release shame as a result or fear. Now, the second piece is that being able to actually say it, and then if someone's willing to be able to go, wow, right? Like I could have that. Like
Yeah.
that could be created, like you would want that with me.
Yeah.
And then the third piece is what do I need to actually make it so that I walk away feeling an even better person as a result. Or,
Exactly.
I walk away feeling that this fantasy made me better. It wasn't something that actually traumatized me further, right?
That's
So
right.
those kind of those
Exactly.
three steps, and I love how you bring that out because you can have someone say yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to go into that fantasy, right?
Exactly.
Or
And
the conditions might not be there.
what I felt from them is that they would have done anything for me.
I love
I
that.
felt like they loved me so much that they would have done anything for me to play something out for me that I wanted.
So
And
trust, you felt a lot of trust with them.
yeah, and
That's huge.
that's really all that I needed.
Yeah, and I want to say that to a lot of women too, because it's that piece of like moving toward it is really about do you really trust yourself and your ability to wield your power and speaking up to your needs and boundaries in the moment of this fantasy? Do you trust that you could hold that? And if you don't, being able to be aware, and talk about that so people can be gentle and
Yeah.
attuned. And also, do you really believe and trust? Do you know this person? to really trust that they will actually be able to hear your no and hold you through the undulation of your needs. Because the fact is that you could say everything about the way that you wanted a fantasy, right? You could say it to the T, be super clear, be like, yeah. And you start the fantasy and all of a sudden, shit, a part of you is out that you didn't think was ever there. And they're going with the, you wanted to be tied up and you're like in your inner child and this, right? And
Right.
suddenly
Anything could happen.
anything can happen. And so how do we learn to not stay attached to the way we want things, right? Which is so
Yeah.
fucking huge. And
Yes.
and be able to roll with what comes up in the moment and be able to trust hopefully ourselves and then trust the people that we're also with, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I felt like yeah, I just felt like it was okay the way it was that I said no. Now,
Yeah.
other
I
time, I
love that.
mean, like one time, I mean, Om Rupani invited me to New York and said, you need to have a session with me so I can show you what I'm doing. And I had to interact with my mind for that and go like, okay, I'm this really powerful woman. Lots of people look up to me. I'm known in the world, and I'm going to go submit to Om, who was my student and was learning from me, and now he's giving me a BDSM session. And like, who am I in the matter? Now that's where I really had to like retool my head. And I had, all the way, the whole plane ride to New York, I was like, I don't know if I should do this, da 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 da. We're so close. Is this going to like mess up our relationship?
Yeah.
Is this going to mess up my relationship with his significant other? Is this going to, what is
Hmm.
this going to do?
Right.
And so then
Great
we had
questions.
we had
Great.
this talk, and he said to me, I'm going to tie you up, I'm going to blindfold you, and I'm not going to hurt you. He said, I'm not
Wow.
going to do anything to you that's going to hurt you. I just want you to experience some sensation play, and I want you to see what it feels like. See if you like it, see if you don't like it, see if it's titillating
Yeah.
and arousing, see if it's not, because I have to show you what I'm into. It's important to me that you know what I do. So
Wow.
I did it. And then I remember, and then he and I are Om partners. So not only is his
Yes.
name Om, but we do orgasmic meditation together. But that's all. We're not lovers.
Right. Yeah.
So
Practice.
so after the session, which was an hour, which was very exciting and intoxicating, we then Omed. And then, so I had some orgasms, and then I had to go to a trade show. And I remember thinking, I'm never doing that again with somebody that I don't want to have sex with. That was
Mm.
too arousing for me to just like, I couldn't just bring myself down from it.
That's so awesome. You were so expanded.
Yeah, it was so expanded. I remember a friend of mine calling me when I was in the taxi going uptown in Manhattan, and she said, "How do you feel? What was the session like?" And I said, "My ass is firmly planted in this taxi cab seat.
Ugh.
I am like so wide."
Oh my
So,
God, I love that. When I get deliciously met sexually, I feel that my whole pelvic floor, my pussy can just like it's here. It's here to
yeah.
stay, I love it. I love it. And again,
So,
I love your ability to move into the unknown, move toward your desire while also asking yourself like, "Hey, I don't want this to fuck up this relationship. Like I have a concern here. I have a fear here." And I think that's really important when we set up our scenes is that we talk openly about our concerns and fears. Right? We really
yeah,
bring that out instead of being like, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna hide this and like I'm just gonna go for it." But really, like part of full range sexual expression and hopefully being met fully in your desire is to be really vulnerable in that place, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Like if it's not real if I'm not.
Right.
I mean, any fantasy I think has huge vulnerable parts.
Oh, yeah.
Anything like my whole life being like, I want to live for a very long time. I don't want to just go to, scientists are now saying we can go to 120. And I'm
Wow.
saying, well, if I feel this good and I look like this, why wouldn't I want to go to 200? I mean, when I got to 120, what, I wouldn't want to be 121. Like
Right.
if they gave me, if the doctors or somebody gave me a choice and they said, "Do you want another year?" I would go, "Yeah, I'll take 121." And then at 22, I would go, "Yeah, I'll take 122." Until whenever, until it doesn't last anymore, until the cells give out. I'll do anything in my body that for experimentation, like because my body is mine, like I could put stem cells in it and do that, and I can afford stem cells. So I'm doing whatever I have to do. But what I'm saying here is that all of it involves vulnerability because it's not the life that was expected.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
I'm not living the life of my parents. I'm not living the life they brought me up into.
Hmm.
I'm not that little girl from Long Island who, did little jitterbugs with her friends on Saturdays and Sundays and watched American Bandstand. Like I'm not
Yeah.
that girl anymore.
No.
I'm not the girl that was an officer in my high school. I'm grown up and I'm choosing and making it up.
Yeah.
I'm making it up and creating
I love it.
in in every moment, and that involves complete vulnerability.
Mm. Complete
um
vulnerability. Yeah. Letting go. It's a shedding, and also I'm going after my desire, which is vulnerable,
yes,
right?
yes, and all of
It's
that is power. All of that is power. Like I used to think that vulnerability was not power. I used to think that vulnerability I used to think specifically that women use their vulnerability to manipulate
manipulate
men.
to get what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I never was going to do that. I always tell the story about when I had the flu. I was going home from Landmark early because I was throwing up at my desk, and my car got a flat tire on the way home. I reached into the glove box. I found a piece of paper, and I found only one colored pen, pink. And I had to write in pink, "Help."
Of
And
course.
I held up the sign, and cowboyish kind of guy pulled up in a truck and he went, "Little lady," he had like a Virginia accent, "Little lady, I'm gonna fix your tire." And I was like, "Listen, my father brought me up to be able to change a tire. It's just that I have the flu right now. I don't feel good. I have a fever." But I had to tell him that I could change my own tire.
Right. That like you had to assert your power so that you wouldn't be seen as like this weak feminine, right?
Help,
Help.
help,
Ah,
help
yeah.
me.
Huge.
So I was very against that. And now I see that that's not the truth. That's the unevolved feminine. And that
Yes.
the evolved feminine knows that vulnerability is power. That's saying, like, "Hey, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm wondering what this is going to cost me in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm wondering what letting people know the truth about me that I'm a sex educator is going to cost me in terms of old friends or family relations or whatever." Yeah, that's power to bring it up, to look at it in self, and then to bring it up to you and to the whole world. Like, yeah, this probably cost me something, but what I gained was so much
Yeah.
more. It was much more powerful.
I love that. And I love the piece of just like being authentic in our vulnerability for not trying to get anything. It's just truth, right? It's just like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is my expression. This is where I'm at. And that's truth. I'm not trying to get something from you in return by saying that, or
Right.
expressing it. And that's a good piece for women to look at. That's when you're in manipulation energy, is like if you're sharing a vulnerable state because you're trying to get something from somebody in return, right? By saying, oh, I'm like feeling really like, scared and I really, and not being, or there is still a hook, right? There's a hook to get
Right.
something.
Well, I'm not, I guess what I'm advocating against is victimhood.
Yeah. Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
if I have been a victim. It's funny. Somebody wrote on Facebook, maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, Philippe Lewis wrote, "Have you ever benefited from being a victim?" And I wrote, "Yes, I have
Yeah.
actually. I was in a violent relationship. And when I faced off with that person and told them to get out of my life, that I had faced death and that I would choose death over them, that they could come in and try to do anything. It didn't matter to me anymore because I'd rather be dead than be one more minute in that relationship." The badass that you see today got born on that day.
Wow. Yeah.
So I benefited from being a victim. I was a victim for as long as, until I could stand up
Yeah,
to
until
him.
you actually took your power back, right? So
And I
that
said,
part of you helped. You was your initiator. It was like you needed to be initiated from that to gain your power.
exactly,
So thank you to the
exactly.
victim, right? Thank you to your victim.
Exactly. If I knew where that guy was today, I would call him up and thank him. I would say, you know what, I'm a badass, and it's because of you that I became such a badass.
You know, when we're able to go to every single person and actually say thank you, when I was able to go to my mom and say, thank you for being a drug addict your whole life, like, thank you for the initiation, and it's still hard for me, but I'm right here, and I love you, and I'm not no longer putting up walls about how you didn't love me or how you didn't do this and how I need to separate myself from you because I want to choose connection, and you made me the woman that I am. Thank you. You are my angel. Boom, and so much of our lineage, right, like our whole experience, like until we're able to hopefully do the work to get there, we're still in a place of protection, right? We're still in a place of adversity and separation, and that, what beautiful work, right?
Beautiful. So life is a fantasy. What do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, I say to people all the time, if you could have anything in the whole world, what would you want? If you could have all the time in the world, what would you do? And then somewhere in there, start navigating your life towards that and speak your truth.
Yeah.
And if the life that you have right now doesn't resemble that, it's not Fantasy Island for you, then, start d- dreaming bigger, start thinking bigger,
Yes.
start
I love
feeling
it.
like, what can I have that's missing that if it was present would make all the difference in the world, and then just keep going towards those things. That's what I feel that I've done. It's not, my life isn't
Yes.
so different from everybody else's. It's just that I let myself have what I want.
Right. And give yourself permission to dream big, right? And then really keep moving toward it. And
Yeah,
often moving toward it also means a lot of let go, right? Things release,
yeah.
old things die, and that's a part of the process too. But Lori, I know we're going to have to, get off the call
I
here,
know we could
which
go
is,
forever.
we could go forever. And I just wanted to just share, and there's a lot of obviously comments coming in, Melissa Davidson, Kimmy Inch, a lot of
Oh,
amazing people that are on here on my wall. Like, and
people I
while
love.
yeah, people, exactly. So are there any questions? So if there are any questions, comments, please keep them coming. And, if you have a question, I'll see if I can actually read it before we jump off. But Lori, what are you up to? How can people find you? And what are you offering?
Well, the first thing they should do is go to lauriehandlers.com. Oh, the thing we talked about earlier, which we never got back to, Lottie Han. So if people want to find out more about me, they can go to lauriehandlers.com/unknown. And then they can get a free download of um, a practice called Lottie Han, which is moving in the unknown, which I think everybody needs in their life. In order to dream big, you have to be not afraid of the unknown. And most people are afraid of the unknown. So I teach people to move in the unknown as a practice to start getting ready to deal with things that happen, like COVID. Oh no, now I can't
Oh,
hear
I was gonna say
you.
no. I was gonna say, wow, I'm gonna go on there. I just posted it on the Facebook wall for
Okay.
everyone, but yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of that because I'm in a
Yeah,
lot of uncertainty
unknown.
right now.
So Lottie Han, that's like a really important practice. Um, if you go to my Facebook, to my, no, if you go to my website, lauriehandlers.com, you'll see that tomorrow I'm starting Sex and Happiness over 60 for people over 50.
For people
And
over 50, great.
so it's for people over 50 to, I have my first book, which I held up earlier, this one, Sex and Happiness, the Tantric Laws of Intimacy. This has 10 laws that just came out of my mouth. It was, I was in Tantra and I felt like all the Tantra teachers I knew weren't dealing with certain things like integrity. What does it mean to speak your truth? What does it mean to set boundaries? People were eye gazing and breathing together and touching each other, but nobody was saying, no, this is my boundary. This is why. I didn't learn that. So 10 laws
Nice.
came right out of my mouth.
I love it.
Now I have 7 new laws for aging and being sexy and happy.
Mm.
And boundaries is in both books. My new book is going to be Sex and Happiness Over 60. It only gets better. And one of the laws, which is boundaries, set your boundaries, is in both books. Because when you're aging, you need more boundaries because people want to put you in a box, because doctors think they could do anything to you, because they want to put you in memory homes or in older age. Your children want to do things to you that you don't want. So you
Yep.
need boundaries. You
Wow.
really need
Love it.
boundaries.
I
So
feel
anyway,
that's,
tomorrow,
I definitely feel
I'm
like that.
starting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's a big superpower of yours, which is really
Boundaries.
powerful.
I never, I didn't grow up with them. My
Yeah.
parents had none. My parents used to barge into my bedroom whenever they wanted to talk to me. They never
Similar.
knocked. I used to have a bell. I put a bell up, and then they would have to ring a bell, like a captain's bell, to come into my room
Wow.
in high school. Like I was like, ring this fucking bell. Don't come
Damn.
in.
Yes. Yes, queen. Yes, queen.
So anyway, I'm starting this course tomorrow. If you are 50 and over and worrying about your desirability and worrying about what your life is going to turn out like, or if your parents are over 50, or if you have friends who are over 50, send them my way last minute. I have room for people in this course. It's an online 8-week. The first week will be a review of the first 10 laws. That's tomorrow. And then the next 7 weeks will be my new laws. I'm trying them out with real people before I publish the book.
Mm.
Like I want to get feedback from flesh, real, breathing, talking, communicative people to say, yeah, this is making a difference in my life.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Mm. Mm.
so it's my testing and my feedback mechanism, and it'll be a dynamite course.
Amazing. And is that at lauriehandlers.com?
Yeah, it's right on the front page. It
Okay.
says sex and happiness over 60.
Beautiful.
And then for everybody else, I have a million things. You know, just go to lauriehandlers.com or find me on Facebook. There's a lot of online programs. There's a lot of self-study. And there's a lot of, I coach people too, so they can
Yeah.
find, yeah.
Wow, amazing. So beautiful to see how much you've
Thank you.
expanded into your offerings, and I'm delighted for the course you're about to give, and may all of them feel just a fuck yes desirability within themselves. May they feel radiant, may they shine, may they feel even more sexy than they ever did at 20, right?
I do.
Yeah, I love
feel
that.
sexy. Well, I feel sexier than I did between 20 and 30 or 30 and 40 because I have more permission now.
Yeah.
Like I have permission to actually get what I want out of any interaction than to just sort of lay back and hope that my partner is skilled.
Yes, because you know how to, right, because you know how to actually share about your turn on and your desires, and I love it, Laurie.
Exactly.
I love it, and
Exactly. I have permission.
I love it. I love it. And for all of the viewers on my wall, I'm running my 8-week course called Pussy Power Up for pussy owners, femmes. That's going to be starting. Enrollment closes May 6th. So if you can find more out at theheartninja.com, and it's going to be 8 weeks of really doing the work to get back into our feminine essence so that we can
Yes.
really get into our bodies. It's going to be a lot of getting into our body, a lot of breath, a lot of sound, a lot of movement, a lot of archetypal work. And learning to be able to really set up intention-filled rituals to really attune to our erotic sovereignty. I've been using that word a lot, erotic sovereignty.
I love it.
And then from there, what do we want to create in partnership? What do we want to create? What would the next step in bringing that pleasure out to the world look like? I'm really excited. I signed up 2 people today. So
Yay.
I've been right. I've been going at it, and I'm just welcoming in as a really delicious group of women, really willing to grow, really willing to be like, hey, I'm ready for a big change, and I'm ready to do the work. And so if that's you, if you're a boss babe that really wants to like put the way that you're doing things kind of like not to the side, but kind of like create better boundaries, right?
More attunement.
More
Yeah.
attunement to like what actually is gonna really get you to the next place from your erotic power. Theheartninja.com. So Laurie, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure and joy. This is my first time really kind of getting to know you, and
Yeah.
so I really want to say thank you. And if our paths cross, or I'm just really looking forward to continued connection with you.
Thank you, Emily. My pleasure. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been a
What
delight.
a privilege. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
And I just invite you to go on over to my page if there are any questions or anything, or if there's anything you want to post. I did put your Laurie link on there, but if you want to just put your
Good.
website or whatever. But
Okay.
Bye, Laurie. Thank you so much to all our
Bye.
viewers.
Thank you. Bye,
Ciao.
everybody.
Mwah, 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 mwah.